Yeah, and I think that Amir's discussion will be a good base for us to bring into our discussion with the strategy board this afternoon. For the last couple of years, we have been discussing sustainability in this forum, but maybe more focusing on actions and strategies to reduce and cut CO2. This time, we will focus a bit more on circularity. And on that note, I would like to welcome the strategy board with Staffan Widén. Please, come up. From Volvo Group, and Hans Segerståhl from Volvo Cars. Lars-Henrik Jörnving from Scania. And Peter Bryntesson from FPG. All here for the next hour. We will have the pleasure of listening to you, 5 minutes presentation each. And the second part will be a discussion and an opportunity to continue and maybe deepening some of the questions that you have connected to your presentation. So there is absolutely no time to lose. Staffan, please, 5 minutes. I have my clock with me, like last year, for you to maybe keep track on time. Old-fashioned analog.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully this will work fine now. So, Staffan Widén, Volvo Group, and looking at circularity, for us it's part of sustainability, maybe a little bit what was the theme last year, as you mentioned here, Jenny, then. And the Volvo Group long-term ambition, that is to be 100% safe, 100% fossil-free, and 100% more productive. And these three areas are more or less directly linked to the Volvo Group sustainability strategy. And in this strategy, they are expressed then as people, climate, and resources. So there is a clear link between the Volvo's long-term ambition and our sustainability development. And circular economy is key contributor towards all our targets. And how do we then reason around this then? The transformation to a circular economy are several then, and we have summarized them in three main reasons. First, to be a sustainable company. Second, for business reasons. And third, then, for society at large, both in expectations and demands then. And if we start with the sustainability then, I mean, we know that the resources are not endless. And overshot date 2022 last year then, there was July 28. And I don't know what is the exact prediction for this year, but I think it's similar. I read 27, but I mean, it can be a little bit different then. And of course, as we have heard many say here before today, then the climate challenge is the biggest challenge we have stand in front of. And to meet this challenge then, the circular approach is, of course, a key part of that then. For example, then, extraction of resources is not very positive, neither on environment and for people, and so is not the waste then that is coming around that then. Business, with the circular approach, there is, of course, a lot of potential then to get different revenue streams than we have today, then more of a long-term perspective that we saw from the previous speaker then. But maybe not so easy to get to that mindset. I will come back to that then. And then taking control over the material flows will secure access then to raw materials and potentially lower the cost of supply then. And when it comes to the society, I think we already see customers expecting us, Volvo Group, then to be a sustainable company then. And some customers already start to ask for sustainable and circular solutions. They're not many yet, but it's growing. And we also see that there are more and more regulations coming. We saw the example from this morning with the plastic recycling, for example. And then we also believe then that there is less acceptance then from, for example, the young generations then for companies that are not sustainable. And if we want to attract key talent, then we have to follow there as well. So let's see that I think it's all there. Last year then, we made an interview study with the help of KTH, and then some opportunities for improvements were identified. And what, if I summarize that, from many good but still isolated examples in the group, then we have a good base to build from when we look on the circularity then. Recently, we have performed some we can say, Volvo Group major circular transformation workshops then, with the purpose then to create awareness, get buy-in, and then prepare for actions to continue the transformation then. And we are of course aiming then for addressing maybe not new but different perspectives like refuse, rethink, reduce, and so forth then. And that is to reduce carbon footprint, the material footprint, the energy reduction, among others then. And what we can do there is, of course, to work more on the increase of uses of recycled materials. In some areas we are very good. Engines, for example, today, or engine blocks, 97% recycled material. But if we go to plastics, it's very difficult then to really find the source of recycled material for the quantities we need. If I go to something that is maybe not so easy to do, is then how do we produce less? That is a little bit the target with all this. Produce less, but use the products more. That is a mindset change that will be quite important and not so easy to do that.
1 minute.
Yeah, fantastic. Short term then, we are then starting to take steps, small steps, one step at a time. We are starting many circular pilots of various characters for new business models, closed material loops, supply chains, and in operations, and more than. Continue to roll out an implementation of the R framework. We will invest more time then in creating awareness and competence in these areas. Improve the way of working and how to organize around materials. That is not something that can be further improved. And then we further have to work a lot, or maybe a lot, but we have to work more on circular definitions, targets, and measures. Because we know that other stakeholders, or maybe external stakeholders, are asking for that. So, and as I think everyone realizing this, we need to work together. This is something that all stakeholders on all levels have to participate to make this happen. And of course, every step matters to shape the world we want to live in.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Don't go yet. Don't leave. Thank you so much for that. Transformation towards a more circular business, that is a large ship to turn. I mean, it's a huge work you have in front of you. You have done some actions. But there is still a way to go, like you say, small steps at a time. Do you, in your opinion, do you have any advantages in Volvo Group compared to your competitors in this matter?
On circularity?
Yeah.
As I said, we have many good examples in the small. We are doing many things. I mean, we have reduced waste in most of our plants and so on. We have had remanufacturing operations in 70 years. So we know how it is to work with these reverse flows that you have to manage also then if you want to purely come back to refurbish, remanufacture and recycle and so on then. So that I think we have things that is a base, and many in the organization have already that mindset, and that I think we should build from.
Okay, thank you. I think there will be more discussions on this topic.
Thank you.
I think I will just stay down here, actually, as we welcome, but you will stay up there. You go there. And we welcome Hans Egerståhl from Volvo Cars.
Thank you very much, Jenny here. Let's see if I can make this work. Okay, so my name is Hans Egerståhl. I'm head of strategic planning within manufacturing for Volvo Cars. I'm going to spend my 5 minutes and just talk a little bit about our company from an overall perspective, and then go into a circular economy, what that actually means for us, and then finally for the production system itself, because this is a much broader question than just production. I have echo. Do you have echo as well? Yes. Okay, should I move somewhere? Here maybe? Here? Okay. Okay, so our company, our company? We are making cars. And we're actually one of the fastest growing premium brand right now. We have mid-decade business ambitions. So by mid-decade, we're aiming for selling 1.2 million cars. And that's, of course, is a big task in itself, but then also we're aiming to go 50% electrical by the mid-decade. And by the end of the decade, we will be a fully electrified brand. This is a huge transformation of the company, which I briefly touched in the end of the presentation. At the same time, we have another thing. So you see up in the top left and top right corner, we're also aiming to be a circular economy, be a complete circular business by 2040, and also climate action, be a climate neutral company by 2040. And it's important here, the keynote is company, it's not manufacturing. That's the keynote here. A little bit, what have we done? And this has actually come from our sustainability report for 2022, because it's a lot about talking about the future, but what have we actually achieved in the last couple of years? And we have kind of the key sustainability figures. Climate actions, we have been able to reduce quite significantly over the last couple of 3 years. Of course, we have a way to go, because we're heading for 2025 and beyond. Circular economy, we're working with recycled material that we discussed before. We are right now 10%. We're aiming for 25% on total material. Waste reduction, doing quite good there, and then water usage. So things are happening in the last couple of 3 years. Of course, we are improving the speed going forward on this one. And then also we talk about ethical and responsible business as well. It's also important in the whole context of sustainability, where we improve the employee engagement, injury rate, and women in senior leadership, etc. Oops, now it starts to flicker here. So this is basically the same picture or similar picture the way we are thinking about circular economy. Basically, it consists of a lot of different areas. Of course, going from raw material through the production system to the use system and back again. Basically, the way we are thinking about, I'll go over here. Basically, it's 3 different areas how to achieve a circular economy. It's basically to use less. I think that was one of the things just before. Eliminate all waste. And then also going into enable growth beyond vehicle sales. And then actually in the user phase, how to actually use the product more. I think that was one of the keynote before, use less, but use more. And we actually think that we can also make a business out of that one. So we're setting up quite ambitious targets to actually make yearly profits out of this going forward. So that's a little bit about the circular economy. So this is basically the whole company, not just the manufacturing arena. Now going into...
You have 1 minute.
Oh, now we're going to production transformation. So we're now in Sweden, as I said before, we are in the midst of a huge transformation of the company as well as the products. So in the production, in the car plants, we're working with something called megacasting, basically making a big costed parts. Battery assembly, a huge change for us as well. And then electric motors, we're actually starting to produce electric motors as well. And then we have JVs, so we're starting to collaborate with other partners in the world, how to actually develop cells. And, oops. And I think that concludes my presentation, actually.
was like you had something more on the tip of your tongue. But I was wondering, there's a huge amount of stuff on your company's plate right now. So many things to deal with. When we spoke on the phone, you said it's like this and that, and the battery plant, and I don't know what. What would you say is your biggest challenge right now?
Well, it's actually a multifaceted question, but if I take it from the manufacturing or the production arena, it's actually to make the whole infrastructure work when it comes to battery assembly and actually making those actually working, because that's a new field that we're entering into now to make that concept.
Full focus.
Full focus on that one. Then, of course, looking at total company, it's about actually the usage phase. That's more about the consumer, how to get the consumer to also then changing the behavior so we can use our products more.
So that is produce less cars, but remaining the business.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Please.
Thank you.
And I think I'll stay down here. Lars Henrik, do you want to come up? Lars Henrik, Scania. I just want to remind you that you have a lot of pictures.
I promise I will keep the 5 minutes.
Oh, that's very good.
Right. Well, as said, my name is Lars-Henrik Jörnving. I work for Scania, responsible for what is called industrial development. I'm also a bit engaged in what we are doing in this house as being chairman of the Södertälje Science Park. So I'm very happy to see all of you here today. And for those who haven't been here before, it's the first welcome to Södertälje Science Park, which is very much connected to what I'm going to talk about, the sustainable production. So, a sustainable production, I often say that for the future, for our competitiveness, not only for Scania, but in manufacturing industry, Swedish industry in general, there are two things on the agenda. It is sustainable production and it is digitalization. However, digitalization is a tool to obtain, among other things, sustainable production, nothing else than that, utilizing big data to make things smarter. Well, as most of us agree upon, sustainable production is not only the green part, it is the 3P, the planet, profit, and people. And then, of course, if we don't have engaged, well-trained, proud collaborators that work with the improvement every day, it will not work. If we don't earn any money, it will not work. So that is, all the 3Ps are important for us to achieve and continue our road towards a more sustainable production. How far are we then in that road map or road towards sustainable production? Well, we are in the beginning, to be honest. We are working quite a lot with, I wouldn't say non-important things, but the things that are closest to us. This is an example of the focusing on reducing energy and the energy roadmap for production and logistics. And as you can see, with an objective to reduce the energy use with 25%. What you also can see on the right side is a little bit about what are we doing, how are we doing it, and what are the tools we are using. Another area is, as has been discussed quite a lot this afternoon, waste and waste reduction. And here, as you can see, we have an objective of reducing waste with 50%. A few words about also what are the focus areas in reducing waste, what are the main activities in reducing waste. To that, we have developed, not only internally, but of course with in common projects and development activities, a number of tools that are very easy to use in different levels. One of them is the Green Kaizen, and this I personally think is a very good example of a useful tool to make the continuous journey with improvements every day towards a sustainable production. Another example is the Energy Kaizen. Is this, or why did I say we are at the beginning? Because we are actually in the beginning. Energy and waste is of course important to focus on, to reduce. It's a good, important steps towards a sustainable production. But this is what it is in, so to say, the long-term objective. We need to start to work with recycling with the circularity. We need to start to design our products for them to be able to be remanufactured or recycled. And I wouldn't say that we have, well, not even started that journey. So there is a long way to go. We are in the beginning, we're doing good things, but this is the future, and this is what we have to focus upon. One help for us at Scania and for many other companies is the National Node for Sustainable Production, SUPER, which has been initiated here at Södertälje Science Park and is now an established national node for sustainable production, helping several companies, including Scania, on our journey towards the more sustainable production. It's about spreading methods, it's about communication, and it's about developing new knowledge. And that is done together with a large number of partners. Thank you. That was a very short, but hopefully a picture of where we are heading.
Exemplaric, actually. Thank you. But Lars-Henrik,
yes.
There is something that I would like to ask you.
Of course, I forgot that.
You have been focusing very strongly for the last couple of years on science-based targets.
Yes.
Now you are very humble, but aware that you have to accelerate regarding circularity, design, and all the other steps.
Yeah.
Is there a conflict?
It's understandable to ask a question. I mean, there is a huge focus on reducing CO2, and especially for a company producing vehicles. I mean, the CO2 coming out from our products is on the top of the list. But at the same time, it's not possible just to focus on CO2 reduction. And as I showed, I mean, waste, energy, circularity, all those things has to be focused and worked with. But yes, it's sometimes very much of a questioning from the top management and focusing on how do we handle our science-based targets and will we achieve what we have promised.
Probably in the same way that you have been so persistent with science-based targets, you will work with the same way in circularity.
Hope so.
Small steps.
Yes.
Forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
And last but not least,
Exactly.
Peter Bryntesson from
My
FKG.
challenge is always not to repeat what they have said and try to figure out another way to say the same thing, more or less.
I think you'll manage.
I hope so. I'm Mr. Scope 3, by the way. We are the suppliers to these people. My name is Peter Bryntesson, and I'm the CEO of FKG. I believe something to do with the spot here, so I go over here.
Maybe you should join me.
I'm also...
Oh no, that doesn't do the job.
I'm also board of directors in CLEPA and steering committee in CLEPA, so it's the European Association. Our focus for our 300 members are sustainability, electrification, and digitalization. And the drivers is new business model and competence needed. I really need that, actually.
But you know, Peter, your slides will be distributed afterwards. So
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think your voice will bear your message.
I have some fun ones. The next slide, I hopefully will show.
Have them if we could talk about it.
Ja, vi tar panel.
Yeah, okay. As Peter suggests, it doesn't seem that it wants to work. If something happens, you will just like jump back in here.
I come back.
And you all say that circularity is high up on your company's agendas. How is that noticeable now? How is it noticeable in your organizations? Is it only a strategy level? Or if we think recycle, manufacturing, refurbishing and repair, how can we see what you're doing in your operations? Lars-Henrik, you were talking to me about mini loops.
Yeah, And as I tried to explain, I don't really see that we are in the outer loops. We are, so to say, in reducing waste, and that is a part of recycling within the production, of course, where you, for example, sand in the foundries that are recycled. There's a number of examples where we have, so to say, the smallest loops, but it's mainly within the manufacturing processes. The outer loops will take some time until we can, so to say, proudly say that we are here. It's definitely on the agenda, and it wasn't a year ago designed for remanufacture or reuse. It's discussed. It's on the top level, and also, so to say, in the organization and in the factories.
Decisions made?
No, not really. I would say not for the remanufacture reuse loops. No.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So still in the beginning, but starting in small steps, like you said before. Staffan, how is the circularity noticeable in the Volvo Group now? Can you give me? Have you made decisions? Have you started hands-on
Some
work?
decisions has been made, and I mean, and we have. For example, as I said before, and we have worked a lot with remanufacturing for many years, and we are expanding that now then to more components, and want to take a bigger, even make it more for more components. And we have, for example, then started up remanufacturing of electronical components in our operation in France this year. So that is one part. We have a company called Volvo Energy that is already now then preparing for the second and third lives of batteries in the future, and business models around that, and eventually then the recycle loops for the raw materials that are present in the batteries. That are some of the examples. We are then trying then with the company, I think it's called Logivity or something like that. They are focusing then on optimizing then distribution pattern, so to speak, then among our, not maybe our customers, but among different transport companies and so on, then to make sure that you're utilizing then the trucks more than we do today. It's not very seldom that trucks are going back empty.
So there are actions.
There are many actions.
Many actions.
Then, as I said, the actions are still quite isolated in certain aspects and so on, but there are many actions that hopefully in the end will make us take bigger steps then.
Peter, you represent mainly the small and medium-sized suppliers to these gentlemen's companies. What about how is circularity noticeable in your company group?
Not so much at the moment, I would say. It's just in the beginning. I believe we need to speed up quite much. But yeah, the demands are coming from the customers, of course. But I liked Amir's slides a lot because I couldn't show mine. I refer to your, Amir.
He can use yours, can't he? Yeah.
And collaboration, I believe, is a key point for the future. And yeah, we need to speed up a little bit.
But what about awareness?
It's low, actually. We are mainly focusing on volume and price and cost reduction. And we need to, I believe we will see a lot of new flows. We need to open our eyes, our mind for new business model and look into the customer's customer and see if there is any business around there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We will come back to the collaboration question a little bit later on. What about you, Hans?
Well, I think, as I tried to explain before, and I showed you a little bit about...
You're lucky.
I'm lucky, yes.
Yeah.
I was actually going to show something. But we're actually moving in with a lot of process changes now into the future. And you say, what can we see about circularity? And we're actually thinking about it, and we're talking a lot about it. And of course, as you see, the sustainability report, that's something we take very seriously. But from a manufacturing or production perspective, of course, we're going into casting, we're going into e-machines, we're going into battery. We're making very big industrial investments in Sweden right now and to be able to achieve this one. So that's a visible thing. Then also, as I was trying to explain before, on the consumer side, we are moving in also into sharing, more and more having car sharing, which basically brings up the usage of the cars. So we said before, I mean, use less, use more. Well, I think it was something like that, right? Produce less, use more. And that's actually what we're also aiming for. And that's actually visible, I think, here in the region of Stockholm. That's very successful business up here.
Main target. Thank you. We also have a little bit of problem with the sound system, don't we? Can you all hear? Yeah? Okay, fine. Okay, so general economy in the world is far from circular yet. You've been thriving for this for 10 years now, but we're not really there. And if we look at the overall figures, Sweden is in the lower percentile in this. But there are other explanations for that. But you, as being still, I mean, leading companies, how much can you impact the circular transformation, do you think? I'll let you start, Hans.
That's a very interesting question. So again, I mean, now if I look from a global perspective, because we are global companies, and of course that we're having, I think of course with a high level actually of education, it could be something that we actually talk about those things as well, and we're actually a part of those discussions within, for example, Sweden. So I think we can impact, of course, the circular and just talking about it, and also creating business models that supports this going forward, because we believe that there is actually, as Lars-Henrik said, there's actually profit in here. If people profit in planet, so I think that's a short description.
What do you say, Lars-Henrik and Staffan? Do you want to start? Yeah, whoever, take word.
We have had initiated dialogues together with our suppliers. For example, we have gathered them at an event here during the spring, or not all, but I think it was 100 or something like that, discussing what can we do together in this transformation towards a circular economy. And so that is one way we can contribute them with starting to initiate these dialogues, of course. Then, as I said, then we can, of course, also starting to deliver on our own and certain solutions, and by that having an impact then.
Good. Those initiatives are very important, and that they are initiated by you, by the leading companies, to gather together all these parts and talk and discuss and try to move forward. Lars-Henrik, how do you think that you can impact transformation?
Well, the objective is to be one of the leaders in the transformation towards the sustainable transport systems. And that is, of course, something that requires a lot more collaboration than before. 15, 20 years ago, it wasn't that difficult. It was just to build a truck and then deliver it to a customer, and that's it. Now, when we are really aiming for a sustainable system, and it's in our interest, in our personal interest for to say, a possible sustainable future. It's also, it has to be in a business case. And that is, of course, combined with authorities, with other companies, with communities. On one side, so to say, setting the requirements, setting the regulations, demand certain deliveries, and on the other side, creating as much as possible of engagement, want to, and the question and asking for. So that's kind of in general. Then regarding our sub-suppliers, I think it's the same thing there. What we want is really to say, set a common objective, a common engagement in getting towards a more sustainable manufacturing or transport system. But that will also be a little bit what we are saying, maybe the authorities will demand or needs to. And in some cases, I think also that we will to say very clearly towards our suppliers saying that this is the the objective, or this is the must if you want to continue to deliver to us.
In the gaming industry, they have like hacks, you know, everybody gathers 24 hours,
Yeah.
address an object, an objective. And I hear from Tanya that you all need to move a little bit towards the middle.
All right.
Maybe that will do something with the sound. If you want to take the tables with you, you do. If you
Right.
want to leave them,
I'll do like this. So,
We should have the corona distance.
yeah. Or recite something from the Bible.
jag tror att det är grejen att vi inte ska för nära. helt enkelt.
Peter,
Yeah.
from your perspective, how do you, what are your thoughts of how these companies can impact transformation? I think this is a question of interest for
that
you.
is slide number 4 actually, and that's
See, there came the presentation.
yeah, and we have a problem, and that is 1/4 of every supplier in Europe are losing money, and around 75% have less than 4% in profit, and that is, of course, not economic sustainable to continue like that. But it depends on much that we have a system, a model that are not suitable for the future. 2022, we had a lot of up and downs when it came to electricity, energy, and gas. We had a lot of up and downs regarding material prices. We had inflation and salary and so on. And the contracts we have is long-term, 3 years, no change, and that will not work when we go into a circular economy. We cannot. So we need to look into to how do we do business. We can work together in a technical wise, but we also need to do it in a economy wise. Not all problems we see in the future are technical.
Are you aware of this? You have the same opinion?
I told them yesterday.
You were told off during dinner, right? Well, I think that is something to take note on. Okay. Well, let's go to the production, the manufacturing plants. How is an increased circular flow affecting your production sites? And then I'm thinking both like new production, but not least when we come to dismantling, disassembling, waste. You've been talking about waste a bit and how you reduce waste, reflow of materials, and such. Would you like to start, Staffan? What about your plant, your manufacturing plant? How is increased circularity affecting your production plant?
I would say that we have to look a little bit further ahead then, because right now it's not huge impact more than on all we already do with, for example, waste handling and so on, and that we are actually quite actively using recycled material where we can and where it's available and so on. But looking ahead in the future, of course, as I said, we have the ambition then to expand our remanufacturing scope. And sometime in the future, I think we will use also remanufactured parts in what we today call new production. And if that will be called new production or whatever it will be called, I don't know. We have also done some trials already then on refurbished trucks in our manufacturing plants and so on. So there are, I think there will be changes. And then, of course, as I said, eventually we need to take care of the batteries. I think the products are fairly well prepared to be disassembled, and quite a lot of the weight of the truck, at least, then is recyclable in a way then more maybe on luck that we are using a lot of steel and casted iron and stuff like that. But there are certain components that are very difficult today because they are not designed for a second life or recycling or something like that.
So that
So
goes
that
back
is-
to design again.
Yeah, and there those dialogues have started, but there we have then different design loops, and currently there are no design changes triggered, but all new products that we are starting to design from now and forward, at least it's on the agenda. Sometimes we don't find the solutions. I can give one example, since we then was referring to recycling this morning on plastics. That today there are no, you cannot get a supply of enough plastics for the needs we have then. But then we maybe have to start with a few components instead then, and take it step by step. But to fully replace all parts today, it's not there. And it can sound strange, but
Yeah. No.
probably there has not been too many asking for it yet. Then, so.
Understandable. Peter.
What we also see is that the customer, you and other OEMs in Europe, are willing to take higher risk actually as well. Because if you change the material mix in one part, you need to do a winter test or summer test or noise vibration test. But they are willing to take a little bit more risk to implement recycled material quicker. So that's a good thing.
Good. I read some, where did I read this? Maybe it was in a paper from you, Lena, about, well, maybe we have to have two lines, one for new production and one for, reuse production, in the same parallel. And that makes me think of Ford in the old times. They had, before they had managed their continuous improvement, that they had to have one production line taking care of everything that was wrong manufactured. Oh, my Lord. Oh, my Lord. But Hans, one question in this. Taking care and recycling and reusing, does this mean that the customers will have lesser choice in the future? I'm thinking Ford again. It's okay to have any color of the car you want as long as it's black. I mean, reusing, if we go more into reusing material, will that decrease the choice variety for the customer?
I believe yes. The hardware will be going fewer and fewer, but the software will make it more customized. Like iPhone, for example. It's one hardware, but different languages and so on.
Yeah, so he was basically saying what I was going to say now. So I think that's the same story. So I think when you say, will the customer have fewer choices? No, I think you will have a different experience actually going forward. And that's basically about what you're providing. Then, of course, it also depends on how the demand is, what the customers want. But, of course, how we actually do that in a good way and still be resource efficient as well.
So, Lars-Henrik, do you have any additional thoughts on this, or something that some thoughts from you on this topic?
I mean, you start off saying how would it look like in a manufacturing site or a factory in the future when we have, so to say, introduced more and more this thinking about circularity. And it's a little bit difficult to answer because we don't know yet how it will look like really. We are trying to increase our knowledge. We're trying to understand better. Remanufacturing will probably be there. And that has, of course, an influence on the flows and supply of material in the factories. One example, what I was thinking about is we have started now a project looking into when we disassemble a gearbox, can we take the gear and use that as so to say, a gear in a new gearbox, or what do we need to do with that gear to be able to get it, so to say, back, not as a, so to say, spare part, but really in a
new van, yeah.
And that knowledge is not yet there. I mean, we are learning every day, and probably we will understand what can be remanufactured, what needs to be, so to say, recycled, And in that case, what do we need to do with this, in this example, this gear, before we put it in a new gearbox? And that, of course, in the prolongation of this, will have an impact on what machinery, equipment, how does it look in the factories. But we don't really see that picture clear today.
It's also something to know, I mean, to identify the areas, isn't it, to look into?
It's a long journey, but it has started, and it's needed. I mean, there is no other way forward.
No way back, point of no return.
And then you also asked about the customers and what they will ask for. And of course, if the customer doesn't ask for our products, even if they are very much environmental friendly, there is no use. So we need to, so to say, match the customer's demand. And if that is 110 different colors, then we'll have to fix that in some way.
Somehow.
Yeah.
I want to ask Mahesh and Lena. We are approaching 5 o'clock. There are two questions that I would sort of like to have time for. Are you okay with that? This is the same thing every year. Is it okay if we... Yeah. So electrification, you said 50% for full electric cars by 2025. That is very soon. And 100% electric cars by 2030. That is also not so far away. And then I'm thinking that it's already causing a huge demand for example, lithium, which is one of the crucial rare earth elements. Will access to lithium be sufficient in all the battery production plants and the production that you are involved in, either by your own production or in cooperation today?
So far, the answer to that one is yes. But then, of course, this is all about development, because you want to reduce again. But so far, it looks promising on that one, because you can use different raw materials in these cases.
Or will we empty? Will the tap turn dry? So I'm thinking about the recycling. It's not the same with a car and a truck, of course. But Lars-Henrik, what are your thoughts about recycling, upgrading, and reuse of batteries?
Well, I think it's obvious. If we will expand as we believe we will expand, I mean the number of battery electrical vehicles or similar solutions, then we need to have a huge part of recycling. That's no other solution, because otherwise we will not manage to have that huge production of battery electric vehicles. Then, of course, it's quite a big difference between a commercial vehicle and a passenger car, and our development is much, so to say, slower in that aspect, and it will definitely not be 100% commercial vehicles with battery on board in 2030. So probably that means also that the development of batteries will help us on its way, so to say, to find a sustainable way of producing large volume.
How do you think you will go in that direction? Because we were talking about this yesterday, Anna, and that cars are not... The car is designed to have... I mean, there is a lifetime to a car that includes like almost everything, and certainly the batteries. And that's how they are designed today. What do you think for the future?
Well, I think you will see more that actually be able to reuse over time in some way. As for the question where it's remanufacture or reassembly or so, that's something we need to look into, of course. But I think that possibility will be there, because the technology is completely different than what we had before to actually be able to use this.
Good, thank you. I think we have time for the last one. And that is a short one, but it would be interesting to hear. Maybe you all think the same thing, we don't know. What is the most urgent thing to do right now, Hans? Urgency for call to action.
From our perspective,
yeah,
I think, it's to actually do what we have said, actually to go this route down, actually, and actually deliver on our promises right now. It was quite a bold promises to actually execute those things, both short term, mid-decade, and long term. But now it's execution.
Stick on the road.
Stick on the road. That is the main topic right now.
Thank you. Peter?
Do it quick, because the Chinese are quick. We have the IRA in the US coming up. We go away from globalization. So we need to be speed up, for sure.
No time to lose, huh?
No, exactly.
Staffan?
No, I think start doing something. That is, of course, a good thing to do if you want to do something urgently. But also create awareness, continue to do that and train so we understand what, because sometimes we maybe don't even understand what is the low-hanging fruits in this. So that I think is at least what we are focusing on right now.
Good. Lars-Henrik,
No, it's
last word.
Yeah, it's very much about decreasing the speed out of several reasons.
Increasing speed.
Yes. And one is, of course, what's happening in the world around us. But it's not really the main reason. The main reason is that we all need to speed up in, so to say, make sure that what we will have in 10, 15, 20, 50 years is still a place where we can have a good life.
Final word. Thank you. But I would like to say, Amir, you were talking about slow speed, decreased speed, the circularity.
These are two different speeds.
Okay, so they're not in conflict with each other.
Speed in action on circularity, and then slowing down, pushing through the materials and resources and everything, so we need to calm down.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. I think we managed to keep our heads cold. Despite we're alive. We haven't been hit by lightning or plants or anything. And thank you for your thoughts. Thank you so much.